So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go through the purging process because we've already done our nozzle checks, and this would be an example of if for some reason maybe we went on vacation, we had the machine turned off for 5 days, and it wasn't being regulated, putting ink and air pressure through the lines, and we start to build air back into the lines, and we come in on a Monday morning after a nice long vacation, and we've got this horrible nozzle check, a lot of air and practically no ink coming out. So what we have to do is purge the lines. We want to clear that a little bit faster. During nozzle checks, your first line of defense is the smallest amount of ink you want to use, which would be using the spray feature. You want to do that 1 to 5 times, and do a nozzle check and see if it clears out, but it's not going to on a major blockage like leaving it off over the weekend or for a long period of time. So the spray would be the first plan. Second plan would be an auto clean, and that does pretty well. It puts out a good bit of ink raining out of the heads, and it only does that for maybe a half a second, and pushes air out of the lines and tries to clear out small portions. But again, if you left it over the weekend, you're going to have, or weekend to 5 days, you're going to have a lot more air issues. So what you want to do is purge that air out of there, and you have to do that by going to the manual clean in your printer control program, fly out window, second from the bottom, and it's just above auto clean. And we're going to use the all button. The all button applies pressure throughout all 3 heads, but to devote more attention to one head, we're going to turn off the other heads. If you have 2 or 3 heads, if you have 1 head, you only have 1 to work with, right? But we're going to deal with this machine, who has 3 heads. It's great. And so we want to purge line 1. So to do that, we want to close off line 2 and 3. So that is turning the valves up to the close to the 12 o'clock position. There's a bar in the back, so you can't actually hit the 12 o'clock. You might be at 11. So number 1 is in the down or print position. It's open. And these are your ink valves at the top. So I'm going to use the purge valve at the very bottom for line 1. The sequence is the bottom line is for line 1, middle is for line 2, and the third at the top is your number 3 head. So we're going to work with number 1. When you open up a valve, you open it to the 12 o'clock position. So that's opened all the way. When you close it, you want to close it back down to the 9 o'clock and make sure it's exactly at 9 o'clock. Any little angle, if it's at 9:30, then over a few periods, a couple days, you're going to introduce air in there. You won't realize it, but 2-3 days later, you'll find air in your lines and you don't know why. You'll say, I have this great machine, but I don't know why I keep getting air in the lines. Well, you might be having your purge valve not exactly at 9 o'clock. So back to purging. I'm going to hold with my right hand line number 1, getting ready to open it to the 12 o'clock position. Left hand, I'm reaching over, and I'm going to press the all button. The F button is for flush solution only. That's when you want to clean the machine, probably every 3 months, 6 months, depending on how much you use it. We don't use the cleaning solution all that often. But for the ink, we're going to hold down the all button, and I'm going to press on the all button, holding it down, continuing to hold it all the way through the process, even until I close the purge line on my right hand. So I'm going to press and hold now, and you'll hear some humming. Then I'm going to count. When I open, 1, 2, 3. Close, 3 seconds. So it's kind of like bleeding brakes on a vehicle. You want to have that pressure continuously flowing when you open and close the valve. Then you release the pressure once you're done. That clicking are the solenoids kicking in and regulating that air pressure, that negative pressure, and pushing the ink back up into the subtank, filling the tank. The subtank is it's a reservoir that holds enough ink for you to produce some screens without having to stop and fill back up. So once it uses so much ink, you'll hear that clicking, and that's what that is. It's filling that tank back up so you can continue to print. That's a good thing. You want to hear the clicking every now and then. If you continue to hear the clicking for long periods of time, anything over a minute, then that might be an indication that you have some air creeping in somewhere. And if it continues to click repeatedly and doesn't stop, then you obviously have a break in your air line somewhere, and you will need to call the M&R digital department to get that worked on. So I'm going to purge the line again, clicking on the all button, holding it down, 1, 2, 3, close, and release over here. When I'm opening that, again, I'm turning it to the 12 o'clock position. So these are my print valves, these are my purge lines, and the valves pointing up as far as they will go is the closed position, and straight down is the open position or print position. So how do we flush with the flush solution? Well, these lines at the top are three-way valves. So closed, print with the black ink, and flush. Flush is directly out toward you, horizontal. So if I wanted to change this to flush ink, I turn it out toward me, and then I switch from the all button to the F button. and excuse me. So if I wanted to clean out those heads, I would fill those lines with the flush solution. So I would just press the flush, and all I would have to do is click this and hold it, and you don't hear any humming with that. You don't hear any ink regulating or air pressure regulating because it's vacuum drawn. So as soon as I open this, it will start to flow out. And I don't necessarily want to fill my purge lines here with flush solution right now. So that's just an example of how you would do that. So again, now I want to move to head number 2. So I close off number 1, pointing it straight up, hitting the bar in the back, not forcing it, of course, but just bumping it. And then I open number 2 and direct my valve nozzle, my valve directly straight down. I'm grabbing the number 2 flush line at the bottom, and I'm going to open it to the 12 o'clock position after I apply the all button. Click. 1, 2, 3, close, and release over here. Now, I'm counting for 3 seconds, and this is because we want to give the subtank enough time to fill back up after I've used the ink. If I get too hasty and I jump in and I start to purge the next line before the subtank has completed its filling process, I'll get a purging failure message. And that's because I've drained the tank from the ink and haven't given it enough time to fill back up. So you want to make sure that you only purge for 3 seconds. So now I'm closing my purge line, my print line back up, closing it. and I'm opening up number 3, and now I'm grabbing number 3 purge line. I'm going to click on the all button and hold 1, 2, 3, and close it, and then release over here. Now, after you've done a lot of purging and closing off valves and whatnot, you still have some closed off right now. It's common to forget about that, but you want to make sure that you put all 3 of them in the print position again. Don't forget that, because you'll get a bad nozzle check after you do that. So put them in the print position again. Close out of the manual clean, and I like to come back in and do an auto clean now that I've got all my valves in the print position again, because that balances everything out. It will also wipe the heads. It'll do 2 wipes. It'll wipe the heads and clean up any residue left over. Now, once you do the purging and you're kicking air out of the lines, your heads have wipers underneath there and little rubber squeegees, and they come across and they clean the heads. That's great for the heads, but when you're purging, you have a purged hole up on the front right, directly under your purged lines. That's where the ink goes. Drops down into the drip pan. So when I have that my purging done, I want to bring my head over using the arrow button. Click and hold until I pull it over to the center. Now I have access to this hole up here in front, the purging hole. I want to wipe that. Just like you're having dinner at night, you want to wipe your mouth, make sure you have no crumbs around your corners. And we want to make sure we have no ink clinging, hanging around up here in the front. And this is part of maintenance. You want to also take a paper towel, roll it up so that you have control of it and it's not fanning out. You don't want to scratch your head. So you can wipe under here and clean the underneath of your heads. The front, the sides, and the backs. But you don't want to reach up underneath and actually touch the heads themselves. So stay away from the center and only clean around the outside. And you can reach around into the back and make sure you have a clean head. And you will get ink on your machine here and there. So, you know, this is, we've been running this for 3 days now. Probably done maybe 100 or 150 screens. And that's the amount of ink. This is the first time it's been wiped down. So that's about the amount of debris ink that you'll have left around the sides of your heads. And now I want to bring my head back home. And I click the home button at the very top, button. And I'm ready to do a nozzle check and see how my purging process is done. So I plot in my information as to where I want it to go. 12.5. Again, they're in the nozzle checks are 1.5 inches wide. So I want to move it over 1.5 inches on the x-axis. And I've hit the nozzle check button. My light came on, it's telling me it's ready to print. So I hit the print button, send the table in. And I do a beautiful nozzle check. That's what we're looking for. So all 3 heads are open, and this way I can do very fine halftone detail, holding those 5% dots in the 65 line screen and 55 line screen, and we are ready for production.